Right guys, welcome back to the channel. You've probably heard, if you're a geeky golfer like me, the term sway gap being talked about a lot at the minute by Bryson DeChambeau and the work he's been doing with Sportsbox. But when we talk about X factor stretch, we're talking about the difference in coil. So if I made 90-degree shoulder turn and 45 hip turn, I've created an X factor stretch of 45 degrees. Sway gap is more talking about the difference in distance away from the target of our upper body and our lower body. And when we talk about upper body and lower body, think of our upper body, the center of our body, as upper body as our sternum, and the center of our lower body as our pelvis, our belt buckle, belly button. So good golfers, they tend to create a little bit of a sway gap in the backswing where their upper body, so their sternum, is slightly behind the center of their lower body, their pelvis, so they're this way. The golfers who wouldn't create that would struggle in this position would be those who are swaying and sliding, bumping, so their pelvis is going too much laterally away from the target rather than rotating. So good golfers with a driver, they potentially start with a little bit of sway gap in there already where the upper body is slightly behind the center of the lower body. Whereas with an iron, they may be a little bit more centered upper body over lower body. And that's just because with an iron, we're generally trying to hit a little bit on the way down, whereas with a driver, we're trying to hit a little bit more on the way up. There are some good golfers with driver who actually are still getting their upper body centered over their lower body. But most in the backswing are getting their upper body a little bit further away from the target than their lower body. So a great drill for that before we jump onto the downswing, which is perhaps the most important part. So what I've done here is just put an alignment stick on the ground about a club head's width inside my trail knee, so my right knee. And I'm just going to put the club across my shoulders, and I'm simply just trying to get this to match up to that white stick on the ground. How am I doing that? By getting my trail shoulder moving up and behind me. And you can see as I make that movement, I've now got my upper body a little bit further away from the target than the center of my lower body here. So I've created a little bit more of a sway gap in the backswing here. And that's a great position, especially with driver. I'm behind the golf ball. When I'm behind the golf ball, I've got room to allow my arms to drop into this slot. I can actually start to hit up on the ball as I really want to see. Golfers who struggle, who perhaps get their lower body matched with their upper body, or perhaps even further back in this position, they tend to from there fall backwards with their upper body and actually end up struggling with contact, often from an out to in movement. So simply in the backswing, it's trying to allow that upper body to load behind the ball, focus on that trail shoulder, up and behind you. Okay, so let's hit one quickly doing that, and then let's talk downswing. I'm not sure I can hit them much better than that. So for me, I almost felt like I was a little pause at the backswing there, but it was just to try and get that sensation I was loaded and a little bit more behind the golf ball with my upper body. The downswing, let's jump onto it. So for the downswing move, if you set up something like this, so I've simply just put an alignment stick in the ground, and that stick is vertical straight up. And I'm going to leave about a ball's width here between the outside edge of my lead foot and the stick, the cane. So you can see clearly there is about a 3-inch gap from my lead hip and my pocket to this stick, this cane. What I'm trying to get the sensation of is in the downswing, and you'll see I've created a slightly bigger gap, if anything, here as I start the backswing. What a lot of golfers do is they start closing that gap actually before they finish the backswing. So most golfers are waiting too late to start to shift their pressure. Most good golfers, their hips have moved away from this to about halfway back, but as I start to finish the backswing, they're already starting to push a little bit more pressure into their lead foot. And as they start to do that, can you see how my hips are starting to already work towards this white stick? So that movement, I've closed the gap. Now hit that wall. Hit that wall early. Good golfers definitely move their pelvis in that direction. And most good golfers with a driver are getting their hips, the center of their pelvis, 4 to 6 inches further forwards than where it started at address. And they're creating a sway gap because their upper body is actually staying, with driver in particular, behind the golf ball, with an iron over the ball, with a driver behind the ball. So less of a sway gap with an iron, a bigger sway gap with a driver, but they're keeping their upper body back and allowing their hips to go forward. So we're creating this separation. What we don't want to see is this move or this move, of course, where the upper body goes forwards, the lower body stays back. Golfers who make that movement tend to look very much this way, don't they, from a very out to in move. So if I set up to the ball, let's give that a whirl. So I've set up the same thing here. I've just pushed the stick in a little bit further so it's not much higher than my hip. And I'm just trying to get the sensation of moving towards that, maybe before I finish the backswing, definitely at the start of the downswing, closing that gap, hitting that wall that's at my lead side. But with a driver, I'm keeping my upper body, my sternum, behind the golf ball here. With an iron over would be good, but again, there'd still be a sway gap because your pelvis will have gone forwards towards the target. So a lot of golfers are worried about swaying. We definitely need our hips to be moving in that direction towards the target in the downswing, in the transition movement. So it could be hard hitting balls this way, but I'm just going to try and get that feel. Hips going forwards, upper body staying back. Another fairway found, not my best strike, but it's a little off-putting having this here, but really try to get that feel of some separation, and that effectively is what sway gap is. So it's just the difference between our upper body and our lower body away from the target. Remember, the key is impact, but being in the right backswing position definitely helps us. So if we can load our backswing correctly and then start our downswing with our lower body, and the feel there may be for you that we're just pushing down into our lead foot, because how do we get our hips forwards? Pushing down into our lead foot. My hips, my pelvis will start to move in that direction. If that video does help, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for more content just like this.